Well, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Circus of Safety video cast where Andy, Des, and myself, Brenton, look to guide you through the thrilling world of safety, and I don't know, try to make something simple out of what seems to have become an incredibly complex beast. Now, listen, we've been getting a lot of feedback over the last couple of weeks, which has been great. Now, really keen, Des, just to get us underway, mate. Can you just cover off the bits that we need to cover off really quickly, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I have to say I've got a lot of feedback, a lot of criticism from our last disclaimer.
Really?
Oh no, really?
Mobs of people in the street throwing rotten fruit at me.
Wow.
Oh really?
Yeah, quite bad. So I thought I'll put in some genuine effort this time. So this one's a little bit more lengthy, but I think it really hits the nail on the head. By accessing and perusing this orally transmitted sonic corpus, colloquially denoted as a podcast, you hereby and henceforth conscientiously acknowledge and explicitly concur that the aforesaid information proffered herein, in this auditory medium, is herewith solemnly intended exclusively for the overarching pursuit of general information elucidation. And it conspicuously desists from morphing into the semblance, embodiment, representation of legal advisement, seasons professional consultancy, or any manner of beseechment or solicitation. Furthermore, it is solemnly affirmed by the creators, fabricators, and artificers of the symphonic assemblage, otherwise designated as podcast, that they disavow, disclaim, and disacknowledge ab initio and ad infinitum any and all censurable accountability, culpability, and liability, past, present, or future, adverting to any modicum, modality, or measure of reliance bestowed, vested, or imposed upon the content ensconced therein, as well as any repercussions, fallout, or aftermath ensuing therefrom, inasmuch as the venerable and time-honored precept of res ipsa loquitur adumbrates and adumbrates yet again, rendering superfluous, redundant, and void any scintilla of presumption touching upon their ostensible laxity, delinquency, or neglectfulness in the said matters. I hope that's clear.
Okay. So,
Thanks, Des.
thank you for
What's
that.
so funny?
Des. I, I think we're gonna have to have a pre-production meeting and maybe run through some of the stuff before we start, because I guess we're covered. So in simple terms, take what we say with a grain of salt, I think is what I took from that. Hey, listen, also, we've over the fortnight, not only have we had fruit thrown at us in the streets, apparently, we've had rapturous applause from people as we've turned up to meetings and to the like. It's been quite overwhelming. We've got quite a bit of feedback come through the LinkedIn channel. As you can see now, we're streaming live on our very own LinkedIn channel, and that's thanks to all the people that have been supporting us. So big, really appreciate that. One of the comments that came from a follower, and I'm just going to sort of paraphrase and summarize it, was, "Helen, you're a badass," and I think that was meant in a really cool, positive tone. So really cool to see people appreciated the conversation we had with Helen Sadgrove last week, fortnight ago, sorry, around professional registration in the sort of safety world, which is really cool. Hey, listen, Andy. Now that Des has covered off our legal disclaimer, any sort of golden popcorn kernels of wit and humor and knowledge that you've picked up in the last couple of weeks out there living the world of fantasy as a trainer and consultant?
Not. One interesting thing that came out of the last discussion with Helen 2 weeks ago was I sort of got a little bit interested in the concept of self-regulation, as you do. So I've been reading a few articles around self-regulation and if it makes things safer. And I found quite an interesting article, but I'm only about a third of the way through it. So I'll come back and talk more about that in a few weeks' time, because I bet people are hanging out to hear.
And maybe it's again something we can kind of post and share up on our LinkedIn page once you finish reading the article and vetting it, I guess, for want of a better word. Cool. And what I've picked up over the last little fortnight, I don't know, something that I've taken away out on the coalface, working hard, has been I guess the way I would describe it is an overreaction and lack of focus in the right areas. So the overreaction part I've picked up with a lot of people there is something happens out there in the big wide world, right? And we all jump on it because it's the next thing. Obviously, those of us in New Zealand, we've had a few recent issues out there in the real world, and suddenly it's a big deal, right? And suddenly we should all drop everything, and suddenly we should all focus on this one particular thing. But then on the other hand, there's still some really important, really critical bits that we're not focusing on, and so we just got to be mindful about that balance, right? And I guess it's finding that balance between dealing with the new stuff that pops up or risks, evolving risks in our businesses, but also maintaining the stuff that we should have focused on. So some sort of stuff that I've taken away from the last couple of weeks. Cool. Well, listen, I think now that we've kind of got ourselves off to a good start, how about we head over to the spinning wheel of death, boys, and give it a bit of a whirl.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So here we go, bringing up the wheel. Okay, here we go. Oh, well, we can't do that. That was bad. That's all. We'll have to spin the wheel again, boys. That's my fault. Sorry, I should have removed that one. Wow. Well, there we go. Qualifications in safety.
That leads nicely from the last fortnight's topic, doesn't it?
It does very, very much so, Des. Great call. So, hey, Des, listen, let's just start with you, mate. Initial thoughts, qualifications in the safety industry.
Initial thoughts is that I think they're important. I think they run the risk of not being relevant to the industry. And just while we're talking about qualifications, one thing I've noticed in my career is that the most effective health and safety practitioners are people that are bringing something from a different trade or profession. They've come from a different area and come into safety rather than learning their trade, their only trade in safety from day one.
Nice. Yeah, good point, I guess. And it's almost like you're yeah, no, I'm actually lost for words. There's you're so poetic there. It was brilliant. No, good call, Andy. I guess this is right up your alley, mate. Your thoughts? One word, one sentence. Qualifications in the safety industry.
Until safety is clearly defined, it's very difficult to come up with a qualification. And is safety a subject in itself, or is it an agglomeration?
Wow.
Of other subjects, maybe the application of other knowledge.
Interesting. Fascinating insights there, gentlemen. Fascinating insights. My takeaways, my thoughts, my initial concepts. I think I'm going to probably go with Des on this. I think, agree. I think there's a lot to be said for people having auxiliary qualifications, if that's the way to maybe describe it, where maybe they've come from a different trade, different background. I mean, there's always a risk with that as well, I guess. So it's just that finding that fine balance there. And yeah, I think there's a risk of them becoming there's a risk of them not touching on the sort of the right stuff, if that makes sense. So I definitely think they're needed. There's definitely a place for them, and then that, like you said, that links in perfectly with our conversation from 2 weeks ago around registration and how that all kind of links in. So, Andy, thinking about qualifications in health and safety, what is your current understanding of it?
I think we really need to, like I said, you need to define what the subject is, so what the content would be. Like the qualification is just a demonstration of a set amount of knowledge, right, in a certain field. And I don't think it's that clear what that knowledge should be. I mean, what should the key elements be of safety? And there's so many different ways that you can look at this. So I've done a bit of work in this field over the years and around in circles. If we think, just throw out there, let's just go around. Let's just throw out what would include. If we're going to say, let's build a safety qualification, what are the topics? So Brenton, what's topic number 1? What are we going to go with?
Oh, I'm going to go engaging with people.
Cool. Des?
Law and legislation.
Surprise, surprise. Okay, I'll take your law and legislation and raise your risk management.
Oh. Can we get rid of risk management and put hazard management instead, or is that a different topic altogether?
Good question. Back to you, Des. You're going to struggle now because you've done your law one.
You've got you've agrees under risk or hazard management, which is identification, analysis, monitoring and review, control and mitigation, and monitoring and review.
So that's hazard management systems. Yeah. Yeah, and we can keep going. We can keep going on. We can keep going on with this and start to develop this list. And this list becomes applications for New Zealand That's it, or NEBOSH International Certificate, for example. These sorts of things are captured in that. But engaging with people, is that really a safety skill?
Wow. Are you asking me, or are you asking you? Who are you asking?
You're on the spot on this. This is quite cool.
Oh, wow. Okay, here we go. The tables have turned. Well, I often refer to the people stuff as dabbling in the dark arts, Andy. And I think the one thing I learned very early on in my career, when I first got into the world of safety, I'd come out of, I guess, a teaching background, very similar to yourself. I went in and I was like, hey, this is what the book says, right? And I went straight in. I'll never forget this day. I went straight in with the contractor and I said, hey, listen, this is exactly what the book says. This is what you must do. And it almost it pretty much almost resulted in a standing punch up. Because what I lacked at that point in time, what I probably didn't appreciate is while I had all the skills and all the knowledge that I'd taken away from at the time was my NEBOSH International General Certificate, what I didn't apply was how to get that message across effectively and how to engage with that contractor and effectively our people around the message I was trying to send, which then resulted in a really difficult situation. So yeah, I definitely think people believe. I definitely think that is a subject and it needs to be taught because there's a fine art to it. And I've got a Leon who's jamming in on the chats over here. He tends to agree with me. So there we go. I'm validated. Thanks, Leon.
So if we take it a step back then, so we think of what's a career in health safety. What subjects should they study at sixth form, seventh form, years whatever they're called here, 12 and 13? Where do you go with that, Des? Go on.
Well, I can answer this with a personal anecdote.
Beautiful.
But I think that most of what I do is research, writing, and interacting with people. So I'd research what an appropriate answer might be. I would write that up in terms that are clear to whoever my audience is. And then I would also try and communicate that to my audience. So any subject that builds on those skills is going to contribute towards a better safety practitioner. And the personal anecdote.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
The personal anecdote is that when I applied for the master's program, which I ended up just coming out with a graduate diploma in safety, but I went into that with a law degree, having been admitted to the bar. And at that point, I was a safety manager for 3 years. And they had to have a long, hard think about whether they could accept me into the program because I didn't have a science-based degree. And in 13 years of safety practice, I've never done science at all as part of that role. And I know enough about it to know that it shouldn't be me doing it, and I would go and engage a professional scientist like an hygienist to do whatever I needed to do. So I find that my skills from law, people often say, why did you leave law and come into safety? Well, the skill set's almost identical. Your research, your writing, and you're conveying that message.
Yeah, so I guess if you talk about research, would be where you're at. It's building evidence, building a case, finding evidence. Not being able to do it all, and this is what I find really interesting about. Because I've taught all of these different courses, and I still teach some of them, and they're all very different. And I've often wondered what are the key things that you need, but it varies within safety. So, to be a safety manager, you don't really need to know much about safety in my mind, but you need to know a lot about management. Because like you indicated there, Des, for the specifics, as a consultant, it's quite a different field. So this whole field of safety is very, very broad. And you could make a case that actually safety is the specialism itself, rather than safety is the subject itself. So safety is the application of all these other skills. And if that is, then maybe there shouldn't be a direct pathway into safety. Maybe you should do other things and then move into safety. And I think that's where what you were alluding to, Brenton, is that some of the most effective people have come into safety and they've found their skills incredibly useful. I certainly know that my education background is far more valuable than my master's degree in health and safety in the work that I do most of the time.
Now we're just showing off, gentlemen, with all our qualifications. I don't have any.
I've got
nothing.
You've got an EBOSH IGC, and it was a great success.
They say I learn from the best. Now, and I guess we're going around. So this is going to lead us into an interesting thing. And I think you're sort of. I'm going to kind of put something else out into the mix, and keen to get Des's thoughts on this. Then, in terms of qualifications relating to health and safety, Des, really interested in your thoughts around. So, do we think it is the be all and end all place? Like, appreciate. I think we're all on the same page. It's got a place in safety. But do you think it's something that people have to have in safety if they want to be a safety professional?
I think eventually they will need to have it. I think, if you might be steering the conversation in the direction of what's better, experience or qualifications. And I would argue neither. Competence is number one, and experience and qualifications can come with time. But if you're a dud to begin with, you're probably going to be a dud after you receive your master's, and you're probably going to be a dud 5 years down the track.
I don't know if we're allowed to say that. Are we allowed to say that? Can we call people duds?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, it's all right.
Oh, awesome. Hey,
I was turning down the language.
We'll get a Broadcasting Standards Authority complaint, but it's okay because we have our legal disclaimer at the start. Thanks, Des. Hey, Andy, what are your thoughts, mate? I mean, I appreciate you're probably slightly biased in the space around, qualifications are a big part about what your day-to-day job is around training and education. What are your thoughts? I mean, qualifications, I think we all agree, like I said, that they've got their place for sure in the industry. But is it a must-have for people wanting to move into the safety profession?
No, I don't think it necessarily is. I think it's useful because it does give some indication of competence or capability at a certain point in time, and that's why I think that's the whole purpose of qualifications, is to say that this person has understood this at some point in their lives, or can apply this at some point in their lives. And I think the qualification has got to be suitable for the purpose. It's got to show competence in what that person is going to be doing. And I think that's where it becomes a little bit problematic with safety. And at the moment, I teach the level 6 diploma at EMA, and it's a New Zealand diploma in health and safety management. So it's very much a management focus. So you could actually, and this is what I've always battled with, is you could actually do that qualification, come out with that qualification, and not know what a decibel is, Now, I would actually think that for anyone in safety should really understand what a decibel is in a logarithmic scale, but maybe not. I mean, you guys are both safety managers, or you used to be, Brenton. How important is it that you understand what a decibel is?
Again, is that a question you're throwing out to the audience? I mean, my thoughts are, you need to have, I guess if you got to have a basic understanding, right? You got to have some knowledge of. If somebody says to you, "Oh, hey, Brenton, I've got," and they start throwing the words out there like decibel, my expectation would be that somebody at a management level should at least understand roughly what they're talking about. Maybe not necessarily know the specifics around it. Maybe not necessarily know the science, as we alluded to earlier, around how they calculate it or how they're measured, but enough to go, well, oh, okay, that's a noise related thing, and I need to get myself a specialist involved to potentially do a noise assessment. If that's the case, I don't necessarily need to know how to do that noise assessment. I just need to know there's something in the world that relates to noise, and that's not a good thing, and I need to find somebody that does know what they're talking about.
Cool.
My view is the same, that you would know enough about it to know that you don't know anything about it and you need to engage someone.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and I think that closes that loop quite nicely. He did his NEBOSH a number of years ago, and I was his tutor. And one of the things that I used to click my fingers and point to it, because there was a little bit of rote learning went on, was the definition of a competent person. Do you remember that, Brenton?
Oh, Andy, mate, listen, this is not the time or the place to be trying to validate whether you're a good trainer or not. But again, I'm gonna put a little disclaimer out there. Again, it's not about necessarily knowing the specific definition, but yeah, when we're talking about competence, Andy, I think going back, delving back into my brain under all the other stuff that I got to worry about, we not only look in terms of competent person, we're looking at the qualifications, the skill, and the experience of the individual. And there's a number of things that make up competence. It's not just one thing. And I think Des was starting to allude to that earlier on as well.
Yeah, I think that the definition, what I was trying to get out of you there was that the last bit of the definition was that they also know their own limitations. And I think that is actually the most crucial part of it, is that just because I see this a lot, just because you've done an ICAM course doesn't mean you're a great investigator. It means you went and sat in a room for 2 days, and that's where we need to be very careful in meeting the requirements of what the individual needs to do their job successfully and be competent in that job. And I'm not sure at the moment it's like that, because there's two avenues that we can take here. In safety, you're working in an organization where your key skill is about how to work in an organization. It's about management, leadership, that sort of stuff. Then you've got people like me that don't work directly in organizations, where the key element there is probably safety knowledge. There's probably 2 different qualification pathways there. In New Zealand, you would probably go the national certificate level if you wanted to do safety in an organization, because it's all about the application of the knowledge in an organizational context. Yeah, if you wanted to be a safety consultant, then you're probably going to go with a more specific type of qualification, which is focused more on hazards and risks. So maybe NEBOSH diploma, or maybe some of the postgraduate courses at the universities.
No, yeah, and
it's probably more important that those external people have qualifications.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. I guess it depends on, like I said, I think it wholeheartedly depends on the role. I mean, I've come across in my time a number of people, and as I can't. What was the term you called them, Des? Somebody that's an idiot. What was that term?
Did you say idiot?
Sorry. Oh God, this is not going well for us. You can come across a whole bunch of people that are highly qualified, but if they don't have the skill set to articulate what they're trying to say or sell the message, that's another thing I'd like to add to the safety qualification that maybe we can develop, Andy. Sales and marketing. I know that seems ridiculous, but a huge part about what we do is we've got to sell and convince people that what we're saying is actually the right thing, and which seems ironic, trying to convince somebody to be safe and go home at the end of the day. But I've also met some really good people that have had no qualifications. But then I think, like I said, there's a fine line then, because at some point when you're stepping over and you're dealing with there's a lot of legalities potentially around what we do, and so the qualifications, I guess that's another interesting concept, is do the qualifications need to focus in and around that aspect of things, which was where Des was going with that, because especially if we are providing advice or guidance against legislation and regulations and codes of practice, which is what we often do. Des, any more thoughts from you on that?
Just trying to collect my thoughts. I think that Andy knocked the nail on the head at the beginning about we need to define what it is. What is it that a safety person is? And from there we can determine what skill set that person needs. Now the Australian Institute of Health and Safety's taken some steps by developing a body of knowledge.
Yep.
But that's just knowledge. It's not really skill sets. Those things that are commonly called soft skills. I don't know how to articulate this, but I think that the ability to research, write, and convey a message is core.
So
absolutely core.
I'm going to throw it out there, and what I'm picking up from this conversation, and again, Andy, I'd love to get your thoughts on this on this going forward. But my call out would be is, have we approached the entire way we've looked at safety qualifications in the wrong way? Do we need to, and I guess it's not so much about what the qualification is, but around the delivery of those qualifications. So would we be better off as an industry having, you said, identify what is a safety professional, firstly. Then there's a base level, there's a base of stuff, and maybe that's the soft skill stuff, like they said, the reading, the research, the ability to communicate, within a number of short courses delivering off that to create more of a pathway as opposed to a qualification. I don't know, something a little bit different. Andy, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's there's quite a good INCHPO have done a real good job, I think, with the Singapore Accord, and they're structured to the health and safety, the approach to health and safety capability and competency. Good. And in New Zealand, the other thing that put in the mix is there's no coherence between job titles. So a safety advisor in one business is a completely different world to a safety advisor in another business. So which causes no end of problems when people start moving from job to job. But I think, trying to grasp hold of the Singapore Accord and use that and embed that in how an organization structures safety is cool. Well, I think we almost need the same thing for people that are not safety managers. Skills for consultants, but then you get that real murky space of is it a specialist that then is it a subject matter expert that then specializes in safety? So, like, I'm an educator primarily, but I basically teach safety. Is that the way that we should be doing with consultants? Should there be that specialist? I don't know. Maybe
any thoughts on that, Des? I've got a whole range of thoughts, so but I'm ready to lock and load after you, mate.
I'll let you go for it, mate.
And I guess I think it depends on the type of consultant you are, really. I mean, if you're going into an organization and you're selling your services as an expert in a particular field, I think that's one thing. If you are, again, a consultant going in to support an organization that doesn't necessarily need or warrant or can justify a full-time safety resource, then you're almost going in as it's a different set of skills again. You've got to have the same skills that we alluded to, the base skills around, the general knowledge, maybe not necessarily understanding the intricacies of decibels, but understanding that there is a thing about around noise, and that you need to get somebody in and you'd guide that business down that pathway. So I think it really much depends on on the consultants that you are and the services that you're offering will depend on. And I got to, does this then link back to what we were talking about 2 weeks ago with Helen, where we were talking about, the Hazan's register, and how we explain to people what we do and how we do it, because like you've identified, there's in-house safety people, for want of a better term, and then there's consultants, and then there's specialists. Now they could be in-house and or consultants depending on the size of the organization. So again, and Keith Harvey, who's jumping in on the chat, thanks Keith for joining us. He's articulated your thoughts, Andy, around INSPO, and that qualifications framework, which I know I'm personally heavily involved with, which is great, is a fantastic starting point, and definitely something that we want to incorporate. And I know it is being used in New Zealand. I know NZISM have looked at it in terms of their pathways. University of Victoria down in Wellington, I know they're kind of going through a little bit of stuff at the moment. They've used the INSPO qualifications framework around, looking at how they deliver their course and their programs. But yeah, I definitely think, Andy, it's and again, that comes back to your comments earlier on around the defining of a safety professional and what that is, before we can start maybe articulating what we need to be learning. Yeah. Hey, well, listen, guys, I know it's hard to believe. Time flies, right? And just thought I'd, I guess, wrapping up today's conversation, because we've still got a fair bit to get through before we actually turn off the live show. But so just wrapping up the thoughts around qualifications in the safety world, as they relate to our conversations. There's any sort of final words from you?
Yeah, I think if anyone's listening and they want to get into the safety space, their lack of qualification shouldn't put them off. They should go for it. And if anyone is in the safety space and they don't have a qualification, that should be an absolute must that they're working towards, albeit they might be doing it part-time or very slowly, but I think as a professional body, we should be moving towards being formally qualified.
Fantastic. Thanks, Des. Beautifully summed up, as always. Andy, your takeaways, your wrap up on today's topic?
Yep. If there's people out there wanting qualifications, get in touch,
mate. God, honestly, it is so hard to find good help. We have spoken about this. This is not an avenue for us to self-profit. This is an opportunity for us to share thoughts.
No, it's not about me. I just want to help them.
Oh, okay. So you'll point them in the right direction. Nothing to do with your services
right.
that you offer. Okay, cool. We need another
Absolutely.
disclaimer, mate. Hey, listen, I'm going to wrap up actually with a message that's just come through. Thank you, Sarah Tizard, for helping me out here at the last minute. And her statement is as follows, and I think it sort of sums up where I'm kind of going, and I think where a number of us have headed to. But she said, I think that a qualification is handy in the sense that it teaches you research habits and introductions of where to go to find information. And I guess making sure that the information you're finding is relevant to what you're talking about. In Sarah's opinion, it does not make you qualified to perform, to go out and to be an advisor out in the workplace. You cannot replace experience and a good mentor. So again, really touching on the fact that it's not just about the qualification in that space, but it's about that whole avenue around a competent person. And maybe that's what I think we've got another topic on the spinning wheel of death there around the competence and the level of competence of the safety industry. So no, some good chats there. So thanks guys. Now, listen, as we start to sort of wrap up, got some big news that we want to share with everybody, which is quite exciting. So I'm just going to, hopefully I'm not going to mess this up, because I've already had our mate, a friend of the show, Paul Shaw, comment on my schoolboy error earlier on. So fingers crossed I don't get this wrong. So bear with me, team. Now, you may all think we just get together and I know you all saw the post out there that for the first time ever, all three of us were in the same room recently, but we do actually communicate a lot in between the show. Now Des has been a busy little, he's been out there beavering and getting stuff organized. Des, do you want to maybe lead us into a bit of how you came up with this image that I'm about to share?
Well, I looked at the three of us and I thought, what a bunch of monkeys. So I thought, well, how can we get three monkeys portraying the sort of thing that we talk about? So it's a bit lighthearted. It's it points directly to safety because we've got PPE, but we've got the three monkeys. Is it see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil? But instead of their hands, they've got PPE covering the spots.
So, and Des, I tell you what, it was a work of art, and a big shout out to your connections for helping us make this happen. But I guess I don't know. Do we do a drum roll? I mean, episode 4, season 1, we're already launching a new logo. I guess can someone give me a drum roll?
What, just on the computer?
Yeah, like tap your hands or something. I don't know. You know, like a monkey.
I don't know if this is going to work.
Voila! And there we have it. The new Circus of Safety logo. So big shout out to Des and the team for making that happen. Really, really exciting. Yeah, really, really cool.
So this will be merch will be available soon on the website.
Well, Andy, as a consultant, you do a lot of talking, but don't make a lot of stuff happen normally. And considering you're in charge of merch, I don't know, mate. You tell us where that's going to be coming from. So, yeah, the plan from here, team, we will be launching our own range of merchandise. It'll be available on LinkedIn and our other channels. Really cool. The other thing, I mean, none of this is about self-racketeering. None of this is about self-promotion. None of this is about us retiring, although that would be nice. Any proceeds, I guess, that we're making from any of the stuff that we start to roll out, like merchandise, those of you that are subscribing to the Patreon account, you know, developing shows like this doesn't come for free. There's not only our time and energy and effort, which we're not looking for reimbursement for, but it's the cost of the software, which you can see we clearly need to invest in. So, so by purchasing merchandise, signing up to our Patreon account, you're helping improve the quality of the show, which I'm hoping you all appreciate it. So, hey, listen, just kind of wrapping up the show for the day now that we've introduced the new logo. Great topic to talk about. Andy, any thoughts on what you would like to land on the spinning wheel of death next week, mate? Next fortnight, I should say.
Oh, I'm quite keen for the risk matrix or risk or hazard.
Ooh.
You know, the good stuff.
Yeah, nice. Yep, nice. Des, what are your thoughts, mate? What are you like, you know, knowing what's on the list of the spinning wheel of death? Anything in particular you'd like to land on in the next show?
I was asking me because I can't remember what's on the list.
Mate, I messaged this to you last night. How do you not know what is on the list, Des? Oh, my God.
Jeez. I did read it, but it's gone. It's long gone. There is one. I think we talked about safety clutter. I remember seeing that on there, and that's something that I'd like to talk about because there's been a development in the last fortnight in that space, which I think is quite significant.
Wow.
You can't just leave it there.
No,
I'm totally going to leave it there.
Wow, this is...
Tune in again in 2 weeks' time.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
By which point I would have forgotten about that as well.
Oh, no, well, this is recorded, Des. You ain't going to forget about it. It's recorded on the internet, mate. Yeah, listen, I'm going to crack on. I'm hoping my dreams for the future, zero harm is one of the topics on there. I'm really excited about it landing on that if we could. It would be awesome. Now, listen, hey, we're real people. Des, you got anything exciting coming up in the next fortnight, mate, that we should know about?
Well, I've got something exciting happening now. I'm on holiday. I can't for the life of me remember the name of the town. I'll quickly look it up, but I'm definitely going to mispronounce it. It is Ohakuni. It's where
Ohakuni.
In the center of the North Island, where the mountain is.
Big Carrot.
Big Carrot. That's the one. So sorry if I butchered the pronunciation of that name. But
when are you heading down there? Are you there now?
There now, yeah.
Oh wow! How long are you there for?
Until Sunday.
So I'm driving down there on Tuesday.
I'd avoid him like the plague, Des. You're on holiday, mate. Hey, listen, Des. Well, thanks for streaming. And Andy, anything exciting for you in the next fortnight apart from driving through Owakuni?
Yeah, some quite interesting work with a couple of newish clients, and a little bit of delivery, a little bit of training going on, and a new cohort of diploma students Monday, Tuesday in Hamilton.
Brilliant. No doubt you'll be telling them all about the Circus of Safety video cast and getting them to subscribe.
Yeah, I think there's 8 on the course, so we should get 8 extra subscribers. Otherwise, they won't pass anything.
Nice. Well, yeah. So I'm excited. I have just come out of a bout of man flu, so managed to perfectly time the recovery for delivery of today's show. Quite excited. And big event this weekend. Well, a couple of big things on. I've been struggling through the UCI BMX World Champs, which have been streaming out of Scotland, which is fantastic, but also midwinter Christmas party this weekend. So that's going to be a bit debaucherous, no doubt. But quite excited about that. Yeah, and listen, a big shout out to all of our people that have been chiming in. We've had Paul Shaw, Sarah Tizard, Keith Harvey, and Leon Moritz jumping in on the conversation today. So big shout out to all of you and to the rest of you that no doubt will be watching this later on. So until the next show in a fortnight's time, we'll I guess we'll all catch you out there, and main thing is have fun, yeah. And see you then, boys. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Yeah.